Hi, this is Chris from the Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from Political Voices Network.
Wow, I don't know what to say about that show last night. What are your initial thoughts? Is it bipartisan at this point that Ramaswamy is the most irritating human in the world? So, and they're both right. Nikki Haley is right that he is a scum, and he's right that it's a party of losers. So your thoughts?
Yeah, right. So here's what I say. I have said for a long time that Ron DeSantis is uniquely unlikable. And I actually mean that I truly mean it. As an analyst, he is uniquely unlikable. Someone who served with him, ran against him for the U.S. Senate. And I think Iowa voters and others are getting to see Ron DeSantis is uniquely unlikable. But if DeSantis is uniquely unlikable, I think Vivek Ramaswamy is the most unlikable. There is not a single person now that likes Ramaswamy, nor should they. I mean, look, he hit the stage in that first debate, and he made some headlines, he made some news, and people said, wow, who is this guy? He might be just crazy enough to be a Republican. But now he's just turned into a petulant idiot who annoys people. And for Nikki Haley for calling him scum. I mean, I think the most relatable moment last night for Nikki Haley was when she called him scum, because people could see a mother in her. Yeah. All of a sudden she became human and relatable and a person, because everybody wants to call Ramaswamy scum.
What a creeper. What is he, stalking her daughter on TikTok? That was just weird. And Ron DeSantis is weird. Mike Johnson's weird. When did you become the party of weirdos? I know you left the party in 2018.
Listen, I got to tell you, so this is when I was a strong Republican, was the Republican wave of 94. Yeah. There was a group of weirdos that came in that Republican revolution. There were also some new firebrands, kind of the true conservatives that were taking the party from Bush 41. But there were some weirdos that over the next 5 years got kicked out of Congress because people realized they were weird. Yeah. We saw that happen again kind of in 2010. It's like every movement, every tidal wave of Republican brings in these creatures that has the country thinking, who the heck are these people and what happened to this party? Eventually that happens enough times, and hopefully you wise up and make the decision I do. You say, I'm out.
Every time it's a new bar scene from Star Wars, and you're like, oh, it can't get weirder.
Exactly.
And you're like, oh, God, who are these new creatures? And as a handsome former Republican congressman, you trigger all my daddy issues. But I have to, we talked about this last time. Don't you think one of the big things is just they are not the small government party anymore? I mean, obviously they lost big on election night because people don't want you in their, controlling their bodies, controlling who you can love or marry, what books your kids can read. I mean, don't you feel like that's and they're doubling down. Lindsey Graham's like, nope, let's do the national abortion ban. I mean, they're just doubling down on it. Right. Yeah, but go ahead. Just in general.
No, look, let's stick with the question of reproductive freedom, because I think as much as we are aware of that issue, we still are not giving it enough credit for how it has completely shifted the political dynamics in the country in favor of Democrats. And you could actually posit a question, should Joe Biden and Democrats run on a single issue next year? I'm not sure that's the case if you really get in the data, but the issue of reproductive freedom is that strong. When you see Ohio vote by the numbers it voted, when you see Kansas vote by the numbers that they voted, clearly referendums to protect reproductive freedom are received overwhelmingly, including from many Republicans. So how do you translate that to candidates? Candidates need to talk about that. Roe v. Wade was repealed because of one person, Donald Trump, and a party that stuck with him and elevated this mission to repeal it. Democrats are trying to restore reproductive freedom. How does that then move into other issues? I think voters are making the leap from a single issue of reproductive freedom as kind of symbolic of a greater tension they're feeling, which is, do I think democracy will be stronger or weaker under Republicans? So I think the American experiment will be more promising or less promising. And when you have Republicans saying, I'm going to seize control of government so I can control your life and tell you what to do, either in the doctor's office or in the classroom or in your church or in your home, people say, I don't want that type of government. I don't want Republicans.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's exactly it. And it's been in cycle after cycle. Speaking of the Star Wars bar scene, after this drubbing, the latest drubbing, and this is now 7 states, David, on abortion rights. This is an actual conversation with Congressman Matt Gaetz from Florida, your fantastic home state. Question, is it safe to say, based off these comments, you're suggesting the women at abortion rallies are ugly and overweight? Matt Gaetz, yes. What do you say to people who think those comments are offensive? Answer, be offended. So this is one of the many just trolls.
Well, he doesn't want
inhabit your
Ramaswamy
party,
to steal
your
a
former party.
spotlight. So who
Right.
could be creepier, right? I mean, that's.
But they're not young enough
Gaetz
to
move.
young and hot enough to sex traffic or what? Anyway, allegedly. I mean, the George Santoses. I can't imagine how embarrassing it must be to say you're a Republican today. We just talked off air about our friend Michael Steele, and I think he just is still a Republican to annoy me personally. But
Yeah.
I just can't imagine saying, "Yep, that's my party." When you look at Marjorie Taylor Greene, I don't know if you saw Lauren Boebert just get her clock cleaned by Steny Hoyer on the House floor the other day. She had no
Right.
idea what she was talking about. I mean, it just,
Yeah.
the George Santoses and Matt Gaetz, it's become an embarrassment, I think, to the...
It's true.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, look, Republicans have elevated a bunch of misfits who don't know how to govern, but they got elevated not promising to govern. They got elevated promising to shut the government down, or because they were social media heroes, or because they were anti-Biden enough, or anti-deep state. I mean, my home congressman right now is more interested in chasing UFOs and Hunter Biden's laptop than solving anything related to the homeowners insurance crisis in Florida. But guess what? She'll be reelected because she wants Hunter Biden's laptop and UFOs. It's a wild gang of misfits right now. And the most concerning part, I think, is that the older, sober leadership of the party has just given into it. They just want to keep their jobs too, so they don't try to confront it. It is, though, why I think there's a little bit of Nikki Haley that voters are finding refreshing. Look, this is still Donald Trump's Republican primary. He wins this in a walkaway. But if there's one alternative now to Donald Trump, it's Nikki Haley.
Yeah.
And I think people are starting to get a little intrigued. She's going to be farther right than most people want in Main Street America, but she is a palatable farther right conservative who is becoming relatable, and in a time when the world's on fire, actually has experience and credentials. Maybe we're in just a very brief, bright spot of what the party could return to. It'll go back to Trump, but I think Nikki Haley's story right now is pretty intriguing, and it makes Ron DeSantis' story kind of more humiliating.
Okay. She's less awful. Still awful. You go back to that party and leave me, I swear, mister. Another man got away. No, but to your point, on cue, the House Oversight Committee subpoenaed Hunter and James Biden on Wednesday as part of the impeachment inquiry. They're just doubling and tripling and quadrupling down.
Yeah, they are.
On this stuff.
They are.
And as you were saying, like, what's the first time the ads write themselves? They just use Donald Trump saying over and over again, I got rid of Roe v. Wade, I did that, I got rid of it, it was me, Roe v. Wade. Like, his need to take credit for everything. We're just using that, right? Because it's true. He is responsible for, all of this electoral disaster.
Yeah, so first, Stephanie, to your earlier comment, I'm not going back. I am not going back. If I run for office in the next decade, it would likely be as a Democrat. So questions for Michael Steele, Chris Christie, and others is what's taking you so long to open your eyes and leave the party as well? Because the party's not going back to anything that it used to be. I think the important thing that you bring up, though, the polling between Biden and Trump caught people's attention this week, and Democrats said, oh, no. The whole world might have said, oh, no, as well.
Yeah.
Trump's beating Biden. Horse race polls are garbage right now. Yeah. Truly garbage. There's no reason to concern ourselves
and when people
with horse
vote,
race polls.
They prove it over and over again. Polls don't vote.
That's right. And what are they voting on? They're voting on issues. Yeah. So when we talk about Roe v. Wade and reproductive freedom, that's an issue. When we talk about an economy for all people, that's an issue. Education that exposes people to broad curriculum, that's an issue. Ladders of opportunity with jobs and healthcare, those are issues. And so when Donald Trump and Republicans are talking about Hunter Biden and UFOs and George Santos and deep state craziness, and Joe Biden is saying, I want to make sure you can get food on your table, your kids get educated, they get a job regardless if they have a degree or no degree at all, and that everybody can afford health care and retirement, and you don't die because you get sick and you don't go bankrupt, and you have a way to provide for yourself and don't have to rely on government in your old age. Hey, I like that guy. I don't like the crazy Trump guy and his band of idiots.
Yep. David, let me tell you the difference between our love story and my love story with Chris Christie. You and I have more of a tender, gentle relationship. Chris Christie, I actually physically poked him in the chest backstage at Bill Maher. But my point is, ultimately, I always win, David, because I said Trump is going to jail. And Chris Christie at that point said, we don't send former presidents to jail. And I said, well, this one's going. And what did he just say last week? He said Donald Trump's going to jail. He said it again last night. I mean, he's just, obviously, I mean, I do have to admire that he's out there saying at least the truth. Trump is a crook and he's going to be in jail and what are you doing? But why? He's got, what, 3%? I mean, there's just no room in the party for him, right?
Yeah, so Steph, let me give you a pat on the back. It's like when I said in January McCarthy wouldn't be speaker, and then he was, and then lost in October. My wife said, you weren't wrong, you were just early. So you weren't wrong, you were just early, right? Chris Christie's late to the game here. But why is he in the party? This is not his party, this is not his race. And when he goes to Florida and he gives the speech and he gets booed, I don't know why you think it's fun to show up the next day or why it protects your own dignity to stay in the fight. I understand he has a single message, that the party is in the wrong place and it needs to come back, that Donald Trump is dangerous to democracy. Well, that's the right message, but the wrong room. The party doesn't care anymore what Chris Christie has to say about those topics. They show it over and over again. And I say that graciously about my friends Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney and others. You're right on the message, but you're wrong in your party affiliation. Yeah. It's time to leave.
Yeah, I'm going to work my charms on Michael Steele. You'll see. He'll come around. It just takes time. But, to your point about polls before we go, Ingrid Stafford tweets, it's weird how Dems keep outperforming in elections while Biden is supposedly historically unpopular. It's almost like Biden isn't historically unpopular. I mean, I don't know how many times, Biden can be underestimated and the polls can be proved wrong before we go, just keep your head down and vote. Just don't,
Look, as a nation, we subscribe to reflexive partisanship. You identify as an RD, even if you're an independent like me, you know which coalition you prefer. And so reflexively, your team's always right, the other team's always wrong. That's a lot of what we see in any horse race poll. But I think the big lesson out of all of the races since Dobbs, there is a consistent theme that Democrats continue to perform well. And I joked yesterday with someone, when you're in politics, media, whatever it is, you get approached sometimes by young people who say, hey, how do I do what you do? How do I get to Congress? How do I get a radio show? How do I do this? And I often tell young people who are asking those questions, just keep doing what you're doing. My wife always says it's dismissive of me that I'm not investing enough. But what I mean by it is, if you're already pursuing that at your age, you're going to get there. Something is going to work. You're already showing that dedication. The message is the same for Democrats. Keep doing what you're doing because it's working and you're doing it right. The issues are on your side and you're winning elections. So everything else is noise at this point. I believe Joe Biden goes into a race with Donald Trump as the favorite. I don't care what the polls say this week. If you look at the election turnout from the last 4 or 5 elections, Joe Biden beats Donald Trump.
Yeah. See, that's why we need you in our party. Because what do I always say, Chris? Bedwetters. We have a lot of bedwetters.
We do.
We need the David Jollies to say, stop wetting the bed.
Put on your Depends. Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah, exactly. Suit up. It's game time. David, thanks so much. It's always so great, to talk to you, particularly on weeks like this, just, to try to break down. Because I feel the same way. My dad and Goldwater going back like a million years, I think would just be embarrassed to say they're Republicans today. So you're right. Michael Steele's wrong. Thanks for coming on. There it is, my first drink of the day, Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic. Many of you know my story. I stopped drinking wine for 3 years during COVID, during the lockdown as part of a health reset. Now I drink wine in moderation, but this is an amazing new product. I've always believed in probiotics. And Z-Biotics, check this out. You drink just one of these. It's the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. I am using this and I feel great in the morning. I don't have to worry if I have an extra glass of wine, I still feel great in the morning. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. I've always had acid reflux problems. It is this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Z-Biotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. All I know is it works. It is Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic. Go to zbiotics.com/politicalvoices or scan the QR code on the screen right now.